Hi, I'm Bob Vila. Welcome home again to our project here in Brooklyn, New York. We're spending a fair amount of time indoors today. We'll be visiting with the interior designers who have some neat ideas on how to use the space up on the top floor. Also, Marmaro plastering. It involves a lot of marble dust and a lot of specialized technique. And we'll take you on a tour of a little shop in Soho. Stick around. It's good to have you home again. Okay, we're going to get started on the top floor, the unit we've been concentrated on, and we've got our front doors in place. These are steel-clad, fire-rated doors, which will be getting a coat of paint, but they're really a very kind of handsome, industrial-looking door. Kitchen's all coming together, but right now we're going to get started talking special plaster finishes with Chris Vila and his friend Jonas Everett, who's... Jonas, you've started up in New York with a little business, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Well, tell us about Marmaro. What is it?
Marmaro is a lime-based plaster that has sand and marble dust in it. Mm-hmm. It's an aged lime putty. It's not a faux finish. It's a traditional
Open it up, Chris.
finish that's been around.
What are its origins?
1500s, Italy and Southern Europe.
Now, how do we get this color, Jonas?
This here has raw umber, burnt sienna, and yellow ochre, and actually a touch of Venetian red.
Can we use regular paint pigments?
You cannot. You have to use special oxide pigments.
What other colors can you make?
I can make any color you want. I custom mix every color for each client. You can do, you know, kind of a salmon kind of pink.
And what iron oxide or what kind of pigments go into that?
This is a burnt sienna, yellow ochre, and with also probably a touch of Venetian red. But it is complicated. It takes a long time to make a color, especially one as dark as we're using today.
Mm-hmm. What's the difference between these three and these? These are a little shinier, almost waxy.
This is a Venetian plaster, and this takes much more coats to come to this finish here.
About how many coats is this?
That is probably 6 coats.
6, as opposed to these, which are?
2 coats.
2 coats.
What gives it the shine?
That has been sealed with a special wax and then polished.
Okay. So the brown that I'm looking at here, is this a sample of what you're going to be doing on our walls?
This is exactly what we're going to have at the end of today with the wall to my right. When you can see the difference.
So the wall has had 1 coat, and after a second coat, it'll start to look like that.
Second coat brings out the highlights of the material.
And that texture as well.
And the texture, but it gets actually smoother to the touch, but visually much more nuanced and textured.
Well, let's watch you get started over here.
Okay. So we have...
anything special about the tools?
Well, we use hawks like normal plasters, but we have a small hard stainless steel blade.
And we want rigidity here?
You want a very stiff, sharp edge blade that gives you the ability to, especially in the second coat, because you're going to be pressing the second coat into the first coat and creating a burnish and bringing out all kinds of textured nuance.
It's pretty runny stuff.
Yeah, it really...
Yeah, you have to be careful not to overload your hawk, but so we'll try to seek its own level.
All right. Should we keep it covered? Does this stuff harden up?
It will harden up, and then you get stuff flaking into your material. So, Chris, why don't I get you started over here?
Okay.
And what you want to do is just get a little on the outer edge of your blade. Yeah, that's good. And then you start not in the corner,
but a little
up in that area, and then you can get it on. And you kind of just put it on, and then almost take it off by pushing it around.
How thick do you apply it?
You want it, it's close there. You want it a little thinner than that.
A little thinner. Okay.
You'll feel it kind of with just a light kind of pressure. It'll kind of come to its own level. Try tipping your blade back. Yeah, just like that. There you go. Now you can kind of get up in the corner with a little less material.
Jonas, what's the tool that you've used in the corner there?
This is a tool traditionally for Venetian plaster. It's a Japan scraper.
Jonas, is there any particular pattern that you recommend for applying it in terms of the stroke?
Well, the traditional method is to use kind of circular motions.
Yeah.
But traditionally, Marmarino has a very nuanced surface. So if your hand movement is changing from time to time, that's okay.
It's not a bad thing.
It adds to the artistry of it.
When this dries, will it lighten quite a bit?
Yes, Marmarino lightens quite a bit when it lightens. The limestone being white really wants to come out.
It wants to come through.
Yeah.
Now, fellas, this will need about a day and a half to really get dry. Yes. And when it dries, Jonas, it's going to look like this wall over here.
It's going to look exactly like this wall over here.
Can you get started on the second coat?
We sure can. Let me just get set up.
Now, does the second coat get applied any thinner than the first coats?
It's about the same, but the second coat is getting pushed into the first coat and burnished, really bringing out the nuance of the material. It's a different experience.
Are you working a lot faster with the second coat?
No, the second coat's actually going to be slower, and it requires more effort.
All right, so when this dries, you're going to start to see all these different kind of ridges and differences in tones, but what about the shine on the end of it?
Well, let me show you. What we have is a carnauba wax, which I will apply a thin layer. It actually gets absorbed in, and then we will polish it later when it's dry.
So you're using a tiny amount.
You will use a little amount. You don't want too much. It'll leave some bad spots if you're not careful.
So Jonas, how do you figure the cost of this kind of process?
The price is about $20 square foot,
A square foot?
and then up from there.
Up from there, depending on the level of complexity, and to do a deeper color like this, more coats required?
If the level of nuance in that required 3 coats. Mm-hmm. We can also tint waxes or another seal that's called a lime seal.
Okay. And then after the wax is applied, there's a lot of hand burnishing, right?
We use rags, but we also have an electric burnisher.
Mm-hmm. Good. Thanks, fellas.
Thank you.
Our interior design scheme is being put together by Jonathan Adler. Hi, Jonathan.
Hey, Bob, how are you?
And Darren Brown.
Hi, Bob.
Welcome. Let's talk about the bones of the apartment. We're almost finished. We've been spending a lot of time with this special Marmarino plaster. When you started thinking about what to do here, what did you look at first?
Well, I think one of the most important things about it is the very casual, open plan. Mm-hmm. Like, I really took my cue from the kitchen being exposed as opposed to its own separate thing. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, here we are in the kitchen, there's no walls, open, and I think that really sets the tone for the layout and feel of the apartment. So I think it should have this very casual kind of feeling.
It's clearly not a family apartment.
Not a family apartment. I think it's like a perfect place for like a bachelor who's kind of living, hanging out, and we want to have this very, as I said, casual, eclectic spirit.
Okay.
So I think on a space level, the next thing that I was interested in was this nook. Like, I see this corner as being the very like kind of comfy, loungy, hangy outy kind of area.
The living room.
The living room.
Okay.
So
You've got assets here, though. You've got brick.
The brick is incredible.
And you've got an old beam and an old post sticking out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that on a material level, we're really taking our cues from the richness of the brick and the old beams, which we love.
When you mean a material level, you mean actual like
Well,
fabrics?
I think
and
like
things?
surfaces, fabrics.
Okay.
Everything's going to be rich.
And in
like
terms of
there.
use and furniture placement, this is where you'd have the couch and the lounge chair, and
Couch, lounge chair, and the most important thing to me is the television.
you like the television.
Television. I mean,
You're in the right place.
Exactly. I think any bachelor who's hanging out is going to be very focused on the TV.
Yeah. What kind of fabrics would you use in here on the furnishings?
Well, I want to talk a bit about all the materials. I think that, as I said, we're taking our cue from the brick and the raw beams, and then the Marmaro plaster, I think, is like sort of consistent in quality and spirit. And I think that the fabrics also want to have a very rich feel. I think like sort of like a warm colored mohair, perhaps.
Well, I noticed you got some samples here.
Yes, we do. We have like a nice rich chocolate brown. This is a kind of velour, but I think that I want to go with like a mohair-y kind of affair. But again, just very rich.
And this is the actual Marmarino finished after it's been waxed.
Yeah, so this is the Marmaro, which again is so rich. And I think we want to do a very tonal thing with the fabrics, but then some of the accessories and perhaps the rug might have other colors that kind of punch it up. So it's, again, sort of reinforcing this concept of casual, rich, kind of bachelor living.
Yeah.
Very simple window treatments, Roman shades, and sort of natural.
Like bamboo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But again, the apartment has 4 windows that's good for an old New York apartment.
Yeah, it's great.
And one of them faces east, so you're going to have morning light, which I guess allows you to use some of these darker colors.
Yeah, which is gorgeous. And also, which is really nice for the colors. And also, speaking of morning light, I'd love to have like a kind of casual breakfast table situation right here. Even though I think there'll be seating at the counter, for just a very, like having a snap. But it's nice to have a table over here where it could either be a game table, a place to read the paper, hang out, eat your breakfast with the light.
Or have a dinner party.
Or have a dinner party.
Yeah. Let's take a look at the rooms in the back, because we've got essentially a 2-bedroom apartment, but it certainly could be a bachelor pad. How would you use the rooms?
Well, I would like to use this room. I'd like to use this room as the office, which I think, if it's going to be a bachelor pad, obviously the guy's going to have a computer and going to want to do his thing. For this, I kind of want to change the tone a little bit, and I really am taking my cue for this room from David Hicks, the interior decorator, an English interior decorator from the 60s and 70s who was known for very strong graphic patterns, strong use of color, and a very crisp kind of pingy kind of spirit. Whereas the rest of it's very loungy and casual. This is going to be more
Have you chosen
pink.
a color from my personal collection here?
From your personal collection, we chose sort of the darkest brown, which is, I think it's the oakwood brown.
For the walls.
For the walls.
Boy, that is rich.
Yes.
That's
it's
great.
It's going to be very rich.
Yeah.
And I think you can really handle that in a room like this because you have so much light coming from the skylight and from the window, which, as you said, is eastern facing.
Yeah, the skylight is the key thing in this room, because you can work here all day long. Even with just one window, you've got plenty of light.
Totally. And I want this room to have a very crisp, choreographed feeling. So I make a really great white lacquered desk that's very simple and very strong. And we're going to put the white lacquered desk here so the dude can kind of be sitting behind his desk, typing away, surveying his empire.
Yeah.
Maybe some sort of filing cabinet or something there for necessity. And then I'd love to do a chair, like a lounge chair and table here. I mean, it's not a huge space.
No, it's not huge. What about in the bedroom, the master bedroom?
The bedroom is also not a huge space, but it's great. So I think in here, we want to sort of stay with the casual spirit of the rest of the apartment.
This reminds me of the Jackie Gleason show, which probably predates you, but I mean, this is the New York situation with the brick wall right across the way. What do you do? Do you hide it, or do you leave it alone? Do you?
It is what it is.
It is what it is, right? Yeah.
I actually kind of like it. It does feel like a very authentic New York experience.
And what about the heating element in here, Darren?
Because the room is on a smaller scale, it will be nice too to have a counter to put books
to
along
put stuff on.
bunks.
Built-ins are always good, but we're going to go check out your studio in Soho and look at some of the furnishings that you make.
Sounds like a plan.
Great.
So, welcome.
Crowded in here, isn't it?
It is very crowded in here, but real estate in Soho is very dear, so
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
I try to pack in as much stuff as I can.
I love the beautiful columns that are probably from the original building.
They're from the original building. I was so lucky to have them.
Yeah.
A lot of space in Soho have them,
Yeah.
but I lucked out.
So this is where you have your interior design business, but obviously you're also a retailer.
I am a retailer. That was sort of I started off as a potter. That's my real first love. And then I became a retailer and recently became a designer. But this is my first retail store. And here it is, full of products.
Very unusual stuff. Now tell us about some of these things.
Well,
Are you going to be using any of the furniture?
A lot of this is going to be in the house. So I
Yeah.
want to talk about this sofa. Is called Sofa 54, inspired by Studio 54. It's very low and loungy. In the camel mohair we intend to use.
And Studio 54, of course, was the legendary nightclub.
From the 70s, very, very loungy.
And you mentioned David.
David Hicks is who my inspiration for the office. And this is a pillow, a needlepoint pillow that's very much inspired by him. Again, the strong use of graphics and very bold color.
Now, yeah, is it actual needlepoint?
This is actual needlepoint.
Where's it made?
It is made in Asia.
Right. And what about other textiles like the carpet down here?
The carpet is hand-loomed in Peru, made from llama, believe it or not.
Really?
Most of my pottery and my textiles are actually made in Peru, including my other hand-loomed pillows.
These are all hand-loomed items.
Hand-loomed items. We do them in custom sizes and color. So I have a whole product line that I intend to use.
And you mentioned you were going to use a desk that you make that's lacquer?
Yes, I don't have the desk here, but I'll show you the technique. Is the same as this little end table. It's like a hand-poured lacquer over a wooden frame with my cute little brand on
But
it.
I mean, it's not really lacquer.
It's real lacquer.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
And where is this made?
That is made in Asia as well.
Really? It's a fabulous little piece.
One of my favorite things is to use very rich fabrications on very simple shapes.
So a lot of what you design, then you have made internationally.
I do. Actually, I really started off as a potter, making everything myself, and here's some of me pots.
Some of me pots?
Some of me pots. I was like a typical studio potter, making everything, working 12 hours a day, and I kind of lost my mind after a while and found an organization called Aid to Artisans, which is a nonprofit which connects American artists with artisans in developing countries for sort of a PC business relationship. So they're well paid and happy and all that stuff, and they make all my pottery now. And it's
So they basically take your prototype.
I make a prototype, they produce it, and it's been a great business relationship. And
Are they limited
and a personal
editions?
relationship. No, they're limited by however many people will buy them.
How many you can sell?
Yes, exactly. And a lot of these pieces actually will be used in the apartment. This collection, I call the Lantern Collection. It's inspired by George Nelson's bubble lamps from the 50s, so it has a mid-century feel.
Okay.
These pieces are a bit more kind of Scandinavian and a bit earthy and organic, and I think they'll be perfect for the casual feeling in the apartment. Then this is one of my newest ranges. It's called the Muse Collection, inspired by surrealist artists' muses.
And the pottery itself is not glazed?
This collection's not glazed. This is a porcelain that we leave unglazed to show the detail. So it's a very diverse range of stuff.
So needless to say, much of what we're seeing here will show up next week when you decorate our upstairs apartment.
Much of it will show up next week.
Thanks, Jonathan. We'll see you then.
All right,
We're
great.
running out of time. Come home again next week when we finish up the place. Till then, I'm Bob Vila. It's good to have you home again. Visit bobvila.com for everything you need to get the job done right. You'll find Home Again highlights, interactive tools for planning your next project, and helpful how-to articles for every room in your home. bobvila.com, the ultimate home site.